Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a bit of an example of how to do formula and ionic equations sort of in conjunction with one another. Okay, so say we're told that magnesium nitrate solution and sodium hydroxide solution are mixed together to produce a solid compound of magnesium hydroxide. Okay, and we're asked to write a formula and an ionic equation for this reaction. Okay, so as we know, to write an ionic equation, we first have to start with a formula equation and then go from that to the ionic equation. Okay, so first step is to write the formula equation. Right, so to start with, the formula equation for this kind of question is pretty straightforward. So we can just kind of copy out the chemical formulae for the reactants. So we've got magnesium nitrate in aqueous state plus sodium hydroxide Okay, and we know that they're producing a solid of magnesium hydroxide. Okay, and so when we see this, we see that there's a solid of magnesium hydroxide produced. Okay, so we know that we've used up the magnesium ions and the hydroxide ions, and so once those have sort of reacted together and formed that solid, we see that sodium and nitrate are left over. So what we're going to have is some sodium nitrate, which is going to be in solution. Okay, and now we know that it's very important to balance these equations. So remember, the two things to include in all equations are the states, which we have already done here. So we've got the states for all our species here, and what we need to do as well as that is to balance them, balance our equation. Okay, so what we've got here, we've got one magnesium on the left-hand side and one magnesium on the right-hand side, so that's all good. Now, we've got two hydroxides here and one hydroxide here. So if we want to balance that, we need to put a 2 here. Okay, and now that we've done that, we now have two sodiums and two nitrates, and so therefore we need to have two sodium nitrates to make sure everything's balanced. So just get rid of that. So now I've got the full formula equation for this reaction. Okay, so that's all done. That's all in order. Okay, now we need to go to now we need to move from the formula equation to the ionic equation. Okay, as discussed. Okay, so we know that magnesium nitrate is an ionic compound and it's in aqueous state. So that means we break it up into its two ions. So we go magnesium ion. Okay, and now we've got a 2 here, which means we need to rewrite this as 2 nitrate ions. Okay, and then we need to rewrite this as well as 2 sodium ions. And 2 hydroxide ions. Gonna run out of a bit of room here, but that's alright. So we've got 2 hydroxide ions there. Okay, and they are producing, so we'll just move on to the next line for the products. They are producing now. Okay, so we've broken both magnesium nitrate and sodium hydroxide up into their constituent ions because they're both ionic compounds and they are both aqueous. Okay, now magnesium hydroxide is solid, so we know that we leave that as it is, so we don't change the way we write that. Okay, but then we see that sodium nitrate is an ionic compound and it's aqueous. Okay, so we break that up into its ions as well. And we do 2 nitrate ions. Okay, so at the moment this looks like a kind of a complete ionic equation. You know, we've broken up everything according to the rules that everything needs to be rewritten by. Okay, and now so the next step is to look for spectator ions. Okay, and we know that spectator ions are ions that undergo no change in a reaction. So they're the same. They're written the same on both the left and right side of the chemical equation. Okay, and so here we've got two sets of spectator ions. So we've got sodium here and sodium here. So we know that the sodium ions are spectator ions, and therefore we cancel them. Okay, and the same thing with the nitrate ions. We have two nitrate ions in solution here and two nitrate ions in solution here. So therefore they're spectator ions as well. We can cancel those. We rewrite this as a magnesium ion in solution and two hydroxide ions also in solution. Now producing solid magnesium hydroxide. Okay, and that is our full ionic equation. That is our completed ionic equation, sorry, I should say. Okay, so that's what we call a precipitation reaction, which I'll go into in another video. So this is our final ionic equation. And yeah, so that's so I guess these two are what you need to come up with. And you've seen that we've written the full formula equation, we've broken it up as an intermediate step, and via that step we've cancelled out the spectator ions to get the final ionic equation.